Welcome back to Joy of the Hang Squad. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Hey, Lauren.
Hello, Sharon. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm excited to talk about our topic today, menopause.
And seriously, let's be honest. We could talk about this topic, and we'll be talking about this topic for many episodes to come.
And the reason we're talking about it today is because the buzz is all about Oprah's special that's just came out. Neither one of us have seen it yet, but we want to talk about our own experience.
Yeah, it just
menopause.
aired yesterday, called Menopause Revolution, and she has celebrities on it. And I think it's, a really important word. It's an important thing. It's something so many of us are experiencing, and I think it's, misunderstood by a lot of younger people.
Well, we don't talk about it, right? I mean, that's the thing. I think a lot of women don't talk about it. And we're going to talk about it and have a little fun with it because it's kind of hilarious. So when I think of the word itself, menopause, to me, it's a pause from men, literally. There's a time in our life when we're so freaking crazy. And let's face it, we've got vaginal dryness. We're sweating profusely for no particular reason at all hours of the day and night. And, when I'm sweating, having those night sweats, I don't want my man touching me. I don't want him anywhere near me. So for about 10 years, there's like, get off me, right?
And let me say, it must be so hard to be the husband, the significant other. I mean, I am in no way, downplaying what we go through, but I imagine that it's quite hard to be the partner because how do they know what we want when we don't even know?
Oh, yeah, we're like a crazy person. They're like, what happened to our wife, right? I mean, we are all over the place.
Yeah, where'd she go? I mean, I put the temperature down to 64 or 63 degrees. I have a large fan that blows on me at the highest speed possible, and I'm still hot.
Yeah.
And you can't regulate your body temperature. Your mind is wondering. And I actually saw something really funny the other day, Sharon. This couple had posted a video, and it was a husband and wife out, and she sort of looked a little crazy with her hair in a ponytail, and she was like, I just can't handle it. I need a divorce. And he, in a very loving way, had his hands on her shoulder, and he was like, that's okay, honey. And he called the waitress over, and he's like, she needs a margarita, and she needs it, with this kind of tequila. Yeah. And she's like, I can't. He's like, it's okay, honey. And then he asked the server, he said, I need some, fries over here, some chicken fingers, know, and it was she was crazy, and I'm not downplaying, making light of divorce in any way, but it was so funny and at the same time endearing that he just sort of realized that she's all over the map. She's kind of crazy, doesn't know what she wants. I know what can kind of calm her down. Yeah. Keep her happy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way it is.
I know. You have to be patient with us men, those men in our lives. You have to be patient. I know. I've had those mood swings too. And so you can take hormone replacement drugs, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah, but it's so hard because,
which helps, but
I can't because I had estrogen-based cancer, so I'm not allowed to take any type of natural hormones. And I'm sure there are other reasons other people can't, but certainly I have not looked into all of my options. Right. I just know the most frustrating part is you don't feel like yourself. And I think younger women who, have been pregnant, certainly they can probably appreciate it. I mean, I have had 3 kids. Sharon, you've had 2. I can totally remember my husband heading out to get me a sandwich, and I asked for it, a certain way. And I can remember him, getting in the car, it's freezing cold, driving to get me the sandwich at the sandwich shop that I wanted the sandwich from. And he gets home and, my head's spinning around. I'm like drooling. The claws come out because he forgot to get tomatoes on it.
Ooh, and he's still married to you?
But seriously, I mean, this voice came out that was like, I wanted tomatoes on that. And even I was scared. I'm like, who is that? Who just said that?
Go back in your box.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's literally like you lose all sense of control.
Oh, I know. I mean, I will cry over the stupidest things. Yeah. When my hormones are out of balance.
So I think
it's
if we
insane.
can talk about it,
Yeah.
and you put it out there, and we know that it's complicated and that sometimes we know what we want, sometimes we don't know what we want. I find it very helpful now that the second my husband and I walk into a hotel room, he immediately checks to make sure that the air is working and that it goes, low.
Yeah.
And I think that's sweet and kind.
So you had a hysterectomy. So you went through this a while ago.
Yes, I'm 53 now.
Yeah.
Had the menopause or instant menopause, I should say, at 49 when they did the hysterectomy.
Okay, so you never went through perimenopause. You were still.
I did.
Okay, so were you still having periods then?
I did. In perimenopause, yes, I was still having periods. And actually, I was having night sweats and hot flashes worse in perimenopause
Same.
than
That's why.
after
That's what
had
I was
my
going. Yeah,
hysterectomy.
that's what I was getting at because it was worse during perimenopause. So I'm just to educate our listeners, like this is a normal thing that we go through before we actually hit menopause, is we start having these symptoms before we stop having our period completely.
Be like, did I pee in the bed? I mean, that's how much.
Same. I know. It was crazy. And you and I are small women.
Yeah, but what's
doesn't
interesting is I have an identical twin.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even have symptoms of perimenopause yet. Like she has 0 hot flashes, 0 night sweats.
That is interesting.
I find that really interesting.
It could be diet related,
I don't know. I mean, we're built the same.
Yeah.
That's we pretty much eat the same. I mean, she drinks tequila and I drink no tequila. She drinks tequila pretty much every single day.
You guys could be part of a science study.
Right? Yeah. Maybe there's something in the tequila. I don't know.
Maybe.
Right? I don't know.
Give me some tequila. Let's find out.
But she
Let's try.
has 0 symptoms.
That is really interesting, being that you're twins.
It is.
Yeah, that is fascinating. So I think female bodies are fascinating because think about the phases of our growth from birth really all the way through. I mean, we end up having women start having their periods at some 9 and 10 years old, right? Girls have a lot of them have.
They say it has stuff to do with hormones in our food. I guess it was more normal to be 12 and 13. Now they're saying 9 or 10. I got mine at 16.
I think I was 15 when I got mine.
And I knew that was normal because my mother had gotten hers at 16.
Yeah, so then we have that, and obviously the hormone changes then are insane, right? I mean, I had the worst cramps. Did you have cramps?
I had 0 issues with
Oh my God, they were the worst.
The only thing is I think I would have taken the cramps instead of, I would get the period breakout.
Oh, you had the acne?
I would get, like the big zit or two, like around your mouth, on your chin. I wouldn't necessarily consider it acne, 1 or 2 pimples.
Yeah.
But, they were enough. Like, I literally didn't want to go to school when I had that.
So I would get cramps so badly that I would end up in the nurse's office because I would be bent over. Like I would miss days of school. That's how bad it was.
Isn't that crazy? And I think that when you don't understand something, you're less empathetic. Like I would, make fun of girls like you.
Oh my God.
I just, in terms of, because I didn't get it or understand it, I didn't make fun of people for how they dressed or what they looked like. But I think that I had an issue with people sort of maybe being weak, I guess. So I think like, really, how bad could it be? Because you just didn't, I didn't get it.
Yeah, you didn't get it because, it was horrible. Even in college, I remember I'd have to go in, and of course I would do prescription Motrin. It's before it was over the counter. But anyway, so we go through that, and then you get through that literally period of your life, and then you're having babies, a lot of us, right? So then you have to deal with your body changing that way. You're giving life, you're growing, you're getting big.
You're wearing a diaper after having a baby.
I didn't have to really do that.
Oh, really? You didn't have like, the pad shoved in there? And
I didn't.
I remember literally looking at a tampon that was in my bathroom, like the day or 2 days after having, my first, and thinking, oh my God, I would cry if I had to put that tampon up there right now. And I never, ever, ever in my life have used a pad, ever. Like I used after each of my 3 kids, I had to wear, whatever that was, like at bedtime, they give you those sort of fake underwear or whatever, and you stick like a big pad in there because I guess I was bleeding a lot and certainly didn't want to get it on my
we are getting really personal with you today, folks. But we all go through it as women.
And it was so, I found it, you do care. You care how you look, you feel unsexy, and to that note, I refused years later to wear anything to bed. When I was having my period, there was a short period of time where they told you it wasn't really healthy to go to bed with a tampon because it's in there so long. And I refused to wear a pad. So I would just bleed all over the bed and have to change the sheets. And I remember joking with my husband saying, if something ever happened to me and they saw like the mattress, I don't know how much blood constitutes,
It's a murder scene.
A murder scene.
It's a murder scene.
You'd have tons of stained blood on the mattress.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yikes.
Right?
Yikes. So do you think that if you hadn't had a hysterectomy and you'd gone through the normal, menopause period and all, do you think that you would have considered hormone replacement therapy?
I think I would consider anything.
Yeah.
I look at it like, plastic surgery. And I don't think that there should be any rules for how anybody should have to live their life. Meaning, I don't think that they should tell people what they should be wearing at a certain age, what you should be eating at a certain age, drinking, what you should be doing with making yourself look younger with plastic surgery. I just think there should be no rules. I think you should do what makes you happy.
Yeah, and for me, I did look into it. I think I had consults with, 3 or 4 different doctors. And what I learned was, there are a lot of options and there's a lot of conflicting information. So it became very overwhelming for me because you can either put a pellet. So they shoot a pellet in your butt, right? I think it lasts probably 3 months.
And I heard that makes
3 months
really
or 6
horny.
months. It does, or I guess, I don't know. I haven't had it done, but yes, I think from what my friends have told me that have had it, it does make them horny. But it fluctuates a little bit. It's supposed to be like a time-released pill.
Huh.
But anyway, it fluctuates. So as you're getting towards the end of it, you have to make sure to replace it right away or you'll start feeling bad again. But I think a lot of people have had success with the pellet. The only con, I think, with it is that you can't control the amount of testosterone going into your system.
Oh.
So if you need more or less, once it's in there, it's in there.
It's in there.
So, and then you do,
so they probably
some people
just sort of gauge what the quote unquote normal amount is, but we're all so different.
Well, they do blood work ahead of time. So they do your lab work ahead of time and they base it, I think, based on your levels before they inject it. But I have a friend that had a lot of hair growth from it. So, because testosterone not only helps your sexual organs, but it causes
so
hair growth.
Okay, do you want that trade-off? Like, okay, my vagina's not dry anymore, but now I have hair on my chin.
Now I have to shave.
No, thank you.
Not just your chin, hair everywhere, folks. Yeah, get your bikini wax. Get your bikini wax planned.
And you know it's such bullshit and I'm glad we're all talking about it now. I'm glad Oprah's doing a special on it. I'm glad there are other podcasters out there talking about it. I mean, men deal with like saggy balls. That's kind of like the gist of,
Yeah, that's the extent of their, exactly.
Yeah.
They're not pushing out a bowling ball and giving birth and
all the things.
Ripping our vagina.
Your body. I mean, women suffer hair loss. My hair was never thick, but it got thinner after my hysterectomy.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. So the other option is if you don't want to do the pellet, you get the testosterone shot, which from what I understand, you have to give yourself twice a week. And then oftentimes you also have estrogen and progesterone pills that go along with that. So I actually went the route because I really hate needles. I got testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen pills. But they don't seem to, the testosterone didn't change much because you really need to get it right into your bloodstream, I guess.
Yeah, interesting.
So the pill didn't seem to do much.
I thought it was always a shot. I didn't.
It's supposed to be a shot, but because I'm such a baby and really, really hate needles, it's a wonder I can do. It's a wonder I can do Botox.
Does it hurt you?
So it's not that it hurts. I'm vasovagal. Have you ever heard of that term?
Does it? Oh,
so I
pass out.
Exactly. So I faint. It's a. I don't know. I had my second COVID shot and ended up. We took it at the mall down here. When they had this big open room, they just sit you in a chair. And I said to the nurse, I always warn them, I said, I might pass out if you give me this shot. He's like, you're not going to pass out. So she gives me the shot. They move me to another chair. Scott sits in the chair next to me. I am on the floor. Somebody came over. Scott grabbed me right before my head hit the concrete. I passed out. The ambulance came. The EMT came. You're going to love this. The young guy goes, I come out of it pretty quickly, but I faint often enough so that I know what's happening. Well, this time not only did I faint, but I seized. So I had a seizure. And the paramedic comes in. He's a young kid, probably in his 20s. I come out of it, and I'm like, I'm fine. He goes, no, we want to get you in the ambulance. And I said, no, honestly, I'm fine. I'm not going to the hospital. And he's like, no. He goes, you need to go. He goes, if you were my mother, I would want you to go.
Wow.
And I'm like,
that's quite a
dude, it's a good thing I'm queasy because I'd probably slap you right across the face right now. If you were my son, I'd be punishing you for that comment.
I don't know, though. I could understand that in a way because I've used that line with doctors before.
If you were
who were telling me, when I had my hernia repaired in my stomach and you're deciding between, do I want mesh, do I not want mesh? And I happen to have the choice. Sometimes you don't have the choice. I had a choice. And I said to the doctor, if I were your wife, which would you tell her to do? Would you go in and put the mesh in or not?
Wow.
And he kind of looked at me, his eyes got wider, and I could tell he was sort of taken aback by the comment because he wasn't used to someone asking him that, and it makes a difference. What would you do if it were your loved one?
Yeah, it does make a difference. And I did get in the back of the ambulance because I wanted to make this young man feel better. So they took my blood pressure, and it plummets. I mean, it's like I die for a second. It's scary.
Well, I'm kind of annoyed that you say they moved you to another room. It makes me feel like they didn't take what you said seriously. I mean, I worked for 2 plastic surgeons, and when we had someone that would come in that mentioned to us that they, passed out when they had their Botox before, we made them, someone stayed with them at all times, and they had to actually stay an additional 30 minutes after having finished all of their Botox to make sure, and we monitored their blood pressure and talking to them. So I feel like they didn't take you seriously. Well,
they didn't, and I don't always faint, so that's why when you ask me though what causes it, I don't know. I think it's just anxiety. It's a brain thing. It's something in my head, but it doesn't hurt. Obviously, it's just a quick pinch. So it's not the pain that bothers me, and it doesn't bother me to see blood or anything. But if someone starts talking too much about giving blood and the needle and all that, then I start to I have to leave the room. Yeah. I passed out in high school so many times because people would talk about needles, and I'd be like, I'm out.
It is interesting to see, though, women and in their choices and who chooses to, fight against the menopause or who doesn't. I mean, sex is a big thing with your partner.
Right.
And I've been very vocal about the fact that, every time you have sex, you don't have to see the moon and the stars. There's nothing wrong with having sex with.
What do you mean? The earth doesn't have to shake?
I know, shocking. in it. It's okay to have sex with your spouse when you're tired, or newsflash, you don't necessarily really want it.
Right.
That's okay. That's what partners do for one another.
Exactly. I agree with that. And so I'm not currently taking anything either but I do think that maybe I should. So I think we need to I would like to have somebody on the show, on our podcast, that can educate us a little bit better about the choices that women have, about hormone replacement therapy specifically, because I do think there's a lot of confusion about the different options.
I agree with you, but in the meantime, I like just talking about it and what we go through, the frustrations, the fact that so many of us are dealing with it. And I find it very comforting to just be open and honest about it.
So you also said you have a loss of sleep too? You had hard time sleeping?
I don't sleep at all. I'm very lucky in that I was never someone who needed, 8-9 hours of sleep to function well. But now I find myself, I wake up every hour, at least twice a week. I'll just get up at 3:00 because I can't sleep.
Do you have the mood swings? Do you have mood swings at all?
I definitely have mood swings. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. And it's kind of weird in that you don't know you're having a mood swing, but then you sort of think about your behavior shortly thereafter or the next day, and you're like, that was totally a mood swing. Like just sort of being, my husband will catch me just sort of being, ornery about something.
Yeah.
Almost like you're trying to pick a fight.
Yeah. I never do that, ever. I'm perfect.
Perfect.
I'm perfect in every way. No, I am so, like Scott would tell you, I mean, he'll be like, what the hell happened? You were fine this morning, and this afternoon you're like, oh, yeah.
And that's why
edge.
The communication is so key, because you need to be able to talk about it. And I don't think it's, we don't want to, day in and day out have to be like, oh, sorry, and then blame it on your hormones. But I also don't think it's fair or fun for your partner to constantly be walking around like they're on eggshells. So I actually like and appreciate when my husband, calls me out on it. And he calls me out on it sort of in a joking way.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't get mad at all. He'll just be like, oh, wow, like, okay. And, ooh, sorry, your coffee, wasn't hot, or, whatever it is. Oh, did you want that chair? Sorry, I sat in your chair. Just sort of makes light about it in a way that makes me realize how ridiculous it is.
Well, you guys have been together so long that it's nice that you have that relationship.
Well, yes, I'm very lucky that he doesn't. He lets everything bounce off his shoulders, and I'm trying to learn from that, and that I think, every relationship would be better if people didn't, go from 0 to 60, getting mad so quickly about something that's, innocuous or unintended. I think that, if you look back to when you were dealing with your kids, and you would remind yourself that choose your battles. Like, is this really a battle worth fighting?
Yeah. But the other thing that sometimes bothers me, though, I mean, it's great that men are being supportive, but I know a lot of men that will say, especially single guys that are dating women in our age group, oh, she's crazy. Like, I hate that word. I hate when women are labeled as being crazy, or she's a train wreck, or have you ever heard anybody say that?
Oh my God, all the time.
Yeah, it's just like, well, maybe.
But then what's interesting that you're bringing that up is I never in my mind associated it with menopause. I just sort of thought, oh, they're crazy, they're a train wreck.
Well, do we say that about men? Like, what do women say about men that are men crazy too? Like, I feel like women are labeled.
That's a good comment. I do not think men get labeled as crazy or
train wreck, right?
I'm trying to think of what, women would.
I mean, I guess they might call him a loser or call him, I don't know, like, because I've met plenty of crazy men, but I don't know that I labeled them crazy.
No, I feel like that's definitely a term they reserve for women, which is, unfair.
It is unfair because, men aren't all together all the time either.
And this is why, though, I think friendship is so important, because it's so important to be around other people who can appreciate what you're going through. And so,
Yeah.
not only do they have empathy, Sharon, they have forgiveness, so that when you acted like a complete twat the
Right.
day or the night before, you can like go to your girlfriend with your like tail between your legs and be like, sorry, I was such an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
can you ever forgive me? And, if they're your real like friend and worth, continuing to be friends with, they will totally forgive you.
Exactly. So to that, do you have a big friend group, would you say? Or would you say, like, is it important to you to have, like, I think I can name maybe 3 or 4 close girlfriends that I know I can count on.
I think that have always been very social. Everyone who knows me knows that I like to talk to everyone. I love to make new friends. However, I do feel that the older I get, the smaller my circle gets, and that I just don't have time for dealing with bullshit or trying to convince people that they need to.
I have less time than you because I just
right? Or that I'm a good friend. Like,
no, I get it.
And I feel like some women at our age can just be mean.
Yeah. Which is sad. You would think that wouldn't be the case as we get older.
You'd think it wouldn't be the case.
The mean girl thing should have been ended in high school.
And I've just started, like, one thing I am not, which anyone will say about me who knows me, is fake. And I just don't have time for that. Like, don't, see me at the Sarasota Yacht Club and pretend to be my friend and be like, oh, Lauren, how are you?
Yeah.
When I know that you don't like me or you say something, derogatory behind my back. I've just started sort of like, I'll say hi, I'll be, courteous, if you will, but I just completely stop doing any banter or chit chat. I just walk away. So I think probably at that point the person knows, there's an issue, but I can't stand women that are, they're not nice. They're mean. They clearly have an issue with you. And then when they see you, they pretend to be all nice to your face.
Do you think it's harder to make friends at this point in our lives?
It's funny because I think that question is such a, interesting question, in that sometimes you find it's easier and other times it's so much harder.
Yeah.
I feel that there are a large group of women, Sharon, at our age who are like, I don't need any new friends. I have my friends. I don't need any new friends. Clicky, and how sad is that?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to make a new friend?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's so important too as we age. I mean, we were going to talk about that, how having a social network it increases your lifespan. It obviously makes you feel better to have that support network. I mean, you have to continue to make new friends and find new interests as you age.
It's
really
it's
important.
Just really hard for me to understand how women don't like to make new friends. Now, let me be clear. I do feel like there's that instant judgment. You can know within, 2-3 minutes of talking to someone if they're someone that you would want to go out with on your own and share a cocktail. We all have our little triggers. Maybe they say something, obnoxious about someone else that gives you pause, or they make some comment regarding like money or, that is so out of touch that gives you pause, or says something horrible about, their spouse that gives you pause. But I still don't understand why people wouldn't, feel that their life could be, improved by meeting someone new who could turn out to really offer them something wonderful.
Exactly. But I appreciate what you said, that you, at this point in your life, our lives, you are looking more for quality than quantity, which
100%.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
That is more important to me.
Yeah.
And I do... I think about that all the time. I mean, I'm always candid, and we've lived in downtown Sarasota. It'll be 3 years in June. And, we lived in Bradenton for a year and a half before that. So we have some good friends there, and I have my ride or dies who live out in LA, but I don't know if I feel necessarily yet in the Sarasota area that I've met the friends that, who will just call me up on a random or text me on a random, Tuesday at 5 and be like, hey, do you want to meet for a cocktail? Or
Right.
I don't feel like I have that group here, and we've been, to here almost 3 years, and we travel in a large
Circle of
people.
Interesting, yeah.
We're always out with couples and doing stuff.
Yeah, true. Yeah, the same. There's I think I have a couple of girlfriends, but it's taken a while. I would call you for cocktails. I just don't go out drinking very often.
Well, I guess I'll have to. Well, and certainly to that note, you can go out and have an iced tea, and I can have a cocktail.
Oh, true. I would have a glass of wine with you. I'm sure I would have a cocktail with you.
We don't have to both.
Oh, speaking of cocktails, wait, run the show for a minute because I have to get something. Talk. Say something funny.
Okay.
Because I have to show you something. This friend got me this cool book for my birthday. That's all about cocktails, so I have to.
Oh, I love that. I pick up books all the time and read about cocktails because, as someone who loves art, I do love the look of a lot of, say, the tequila bottles because I find them to be pieces of art. All the Clase Azul ones, and I recently discovered this large, foot-long Jaguar that's a tequila bottle that I want to buy because they just look like pieces of art. So what's that book you got over there?
Okay, so I have to read this to you. So my friend Teresa, Rick and Teresa gave this to me for my birthday, and it says, it's a book, and on the outside it says, How to Make a Sharon-tini.
Oh,
There's a drink that's named just for me. Yeah, so it says... every excellent person should have a drink named after them at least once in their lifetime. And here's a book of amazing recipes and cocktail ideas to celebrate all the best things in life, laughter, good times, and most of all, you. But hold on, I got to read this. How do we celebrate the kindest, smartest, finest, and bravest person around? She's talking about me. Let's raise a glass of something special that's as zesty as you. To your generous heart, so caring and true, to your marvelous mind and impressive IQ, to the magnetic charm that's you through and through, to your love of adventure, of things bold and new. But most of all, Sharon, cheers to you. So, my drink is a Sharon-tini. Let me tell you what's in it. Ingredients are, ready? I'm a classic is what it says. So it's 2 ounces of top quality vodka. What would yours be?
Mine would definitely be Tito's or Chopin or Russian Standard, which you just can't get right now.
All right. And then it says 1/3 ounce of raspberry eau de vie. Am I saying that right? You're the French person.
Eau de vie, water of life.
Ooh, there you go. It says capriolas if possible. Okay. 1/3 ounce of Noli Prat dry vermouth. That's very specific.
That is specific. And vermouth is pretty sweet.
Garnish it. Well, not dry. You can have dry or sweet. This is dry vermouth.
I thought vermouth is always kind of sweet, though, even if it's...
Oh, no, you can have dry and sweet. No, because you put dry in a martini, a dry martini. Anyway, then you garnish it with raspberry and honey. I should have made you one for today. We'll have to try this.
Is the whole...
Isn't that not cool?
Does the book have other teenies in it?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different recipes.
Is there a Lauren teenie in there?
No, we have to make you a book now. When's your birthday?
A book.
When's your birthday?
In November.
In November. So,
I think drinks are fun.
Isn't that the coolest present, though? I mean, I think that's just a really cool gift. Thank you, Teresa and Rick. She listens to our podcast. Every single one. She's listened to every one.
Oh, thanks, Teresa.
I think you're the only one, Teresa, that's been that loyal. So thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna head to a Illinois game with those guys.
Oh, fun!
I know. Yeah. Illinois football.
So speaking of friends, they're new friends of ours.
Yes, they're great.
She talks about how hard it was for them to relocate to Sarasota, and she's obviously made a nice friend group, but It's hard to transition later in life to a new
It is,
new
and
place.
I do
For some people.
I do think it's important. You need to find people you have things in common with, because they have that Sarasota group here that I joined online, and I think I went to 2 things and just didn't really connect with anyone there. And in fact, one time I met this woman, perfectly nice. There's nothing bad I could say about her. And I met her for coffee after doing yoga. We just had nothing in common. She was, here I was a 51-year-old woman with 3 kids out of the house, not working.
Yeah.
And she was, a 26-year-old woman, married, no kids, from Paris. I thought we would have the French thing in common since I love to speak French. And, worked 24/7, and we just had nothing in common. Not only do we not see each other again, we never even texted again.
Which is interesting because you and I met at F45 and we could have had that same experience, but we're lucky that here we are 3 years later.
I know, right?
It'll be 3 years in July.
But see, that's my point, Sharon, when I say about, meeting new people, like you made the effort to invite us to come to your house for a party.
Right.
I'll invite, ask someone to meet out for drinks. I actually like it when people actually have a plan of action. I cannot stand when people just throw out the casual, oh, we should do
I know, exactly.
Dinner. Here's a little tea for you. My husband has some friends, or a friend that he grew up with, and we used to do things with them, and they just started to live a different life than we did. They seemed to be embarrassed by Gabby and me. There'd be comments about us having appropriate, behavior at a party they were throwing, which, what the fuck does that mean? We completely know how to be appropriate, and no one knows how to schmooze a room like the 2 of us. And then, so they'd throw out the casual, like, oh, we should meet, for dinner. And then I finally just realized and said to my husband, I don't want to meet them for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, anyone that, has to suggest anything about how my husband and I should behave, I don't want to go out to dinner with you.
No,
like,
that's
if you're
really
embarrassed,
tacky. Yeah, that's
if you're
tacky.
embarrassed by being around us because we're not bougie enough for you, or I'm not country club enough for you, then I have zero interest of being friends with you.
They don't realize they're talking to somebody who knows the Prince of Monaco. More than knows, is related to. They don't realize the circles that you actually
Isn't that funny? And that just
able
goes to show
yeah.
you, because that's how my mother-in-law grew up, and she's the most down to earth.
But you don't make a thing about it. Like, nobody would ever know, obviously.
Well, yeah, and it's not
have.
my relationship.
Well, of course.
It's my husband and kids' relationship.
But still, those are the circles that you get invited to. Not everybody gets invited to go to the Palace in Monaco.
The point you're making, yes, you can
the
imagine the parties and functions that we have to go to while we're over there.
Right.
We certainly know appropriate
You can hang anywhere.
Decorum, and I know which fork to use and which butter plate is mine, and how to dress and how to, act when you're meeting, a prince from another country.
This is the best thing, honestly, I think about both of us, Lauren, is that you and I can literally hang in any environment. We can hang at a sporting event, at a tailgate party. We can hang at a black tie event and be just as comfortable in both places. Wouldn't you agree?
I would totally agree. I love, and that's what's fun in life, like going to a dive bar. And I mean, I will tell you what's hilarious is I remember going to this unbelievable dive bar in this seedy little area, downtown LA. We were living in Manhattan Beach, California at the time, and we walk in and there were a bunch of celebrities in there.
Yeah.
And I thought, how funny and appropriate, and, like a dive bar, not a bar that is trying to be a dive bar that charges you, $25 for a drink. Know a place like you would go to in downtown Philly where you can get a beer and a shot for, $5.
Yeah, I feel like, for me, it's like that Shania Twain song, "It Don't Impress Me Much," like that whole thing. That stuff doesn't impress me much. What impresses me is the person that you are. Like, that's great. I am impressed by the work you've done to get to where you are. Like, awesome, great job. If you make billions of dollars, I'm all for it. Like, congratulations. I'm sure you've worked hard to get there, but it don't impress me much.
You know what? That's so funny you would say that, Sharon, because that's exactly what I say all the time, in that I like nice things. Yeah. I'd only fly first class if I could.
100%.
I like shopping. I love fashion. However, I would never, nor have I ever, chosen my friends or my social circle based on other people's wealth or where they live or where they shop or what they look like. Yeah. And so I have zero interest I have zero interest in being around people who place importance on those. And I think you and I know people who...
Oh my God, when I was single, I'll never forget going out with this one guy who, date one, all he did was talk about him, how many cars he owned, how many homes he owned, that we were going to be skiing in Aspen and all that. And I'm like, you are such a turnoff. I could care less about all your stuff.
Isn't that? Here's a little more tea for you, Sharon. We had friends visit from LA. Yeah. And someone we know locally, actually had the balls to ask my husband, well, like, what's he do? I mean, does he make a lot of money? Like, what's his, financial situation? Yeah. When my husband told me that the next day, I was appalled. I had a hard time looking at that person the same. Like, these friends of ours are great. Yeah. They came out on the boat. They were fun. They're both vibrant, full of life, up for anything. In what world do you live in that you would ask what their financial situation was or how much money they made? Exactly. Yeah, no, it's tacky. I agree completely. So we have to wrap up this episode. This has been a fun one, though. Tell me some advice you'd give your younger self, if you have any. Actually, I'm not going to give myself any. Oh, okay. I'm not going to give my younger self any advice.
Not today. Okay.
I'm going to hit you up with a little question to see.
Ooh, to
see just a surprise, question I was thinking about.
She always scares me when she does this.
Just, would you ever, if you were seated in a restaurant, and people got up from the table next to you who looked like very, fine, cleanly people. And let's say you were starving and they left a full bread basket. Would you ever grab something off their table?
I would not. I never have, and I never would do that.
Now, no. What if they offered it to you? What if the people next to you were drinking a bottle of a Chateau Margaux or a Petrus or an Opus and had half of it left and said to you and Scott, hey, we're not going to finish this bottle. We don't live here. We can't bring it with us. Do you guys want the rest of our bottle?
Yes, that I would do. Okay. I would definitely do that. And we have offered other people the same if we... when we hadn't been able to finish it. Although I don't know why they wouldn't cork it and take it with them. But I would definitely, if they were generous enough to share that. If they offered me their bread, I probably would. But I wouldn't...
do it without, isn't that funny?
I wouldn't take it if they left the table and left it there. I wouldn't just go over and say, I'm starving, I'm going to jump into their bread basket. But if they offered it and said, hey, we're not eating this, and you guys have been waiting for a while... would you like it? Yes, I probably would. How about you?
I have never, nor would I now, even if, caviar, my favorite thing in the world, even if there was caviar left on a table, I do fully think...
First of all, wait, I have to stop you. What kind of person would leave caviar? That's a problem right there.
True, that would be a problem.
Who would be leaving caviar?
That would be a problem.
Anyway, but if they did, you would not touch it.
I would not. I mean, I am big on sort of following the room and seeing what other people do, and that we were at a party in Monaco on a boat. And Princess Charlene had given the woman that owned the boat for a gift for being kind to her and inviting friends on the boat, a huge little, what do you call it? A huge thing of caviar.
The canisters.
A canister, a huge canister. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that it was about, let's say it was, 2-3 pounds of caviar. I mean, can you imagine what that's worth? And it was sitting in the center of the table, and nobody else I was with took a second serving. And I just sat there and waited and waited. And now when I think back on it, I'm mad that I didn't take a second and third. Like, what? Who cares? What would they say, that I am, piggy, that I, eat too much? I mean, why didn't I? So I would tell, now at 53, I would tell my 50-year-old self, because that's when it was 3 years ago, oh my God, help yourself to more caviar. Just because they don't want more, it doesn't mean you shouldn't take more.
Eat up.
Eat up.
Eat up. So have you always liked caviar? It's kind of an acquired taste. I mean, some are better than others, but...
Always.
Yeah, you've always liked it.
Always liked it, because I always liked fish and...
Do you eat it with the onions and how do you prepare your...
No, I like to have it very simple, just on... Probably my favorite would be having it on not even a little toast point, but on a perfect little... potato chip.
Do you like the creme fraiche with it, or just?
I do not.
So I like just the caviar with
the caviar on a potato chip, and
salt.
It does need a potato chip that has some weight to it. Like those Lay's are so thin they break.
Yeah.
Before you get it to your mouth.
You need to use the Cape Cod ones.
Yes.
Those are better.
Something thicker, but that's to me how I like it. Just plain and simple, the caviar on a potato chip.
Interesting. Yeah, because don't they serve it sometimes with chopped eggs and onion? And
there's
a whole thing.
And, you're supposed to always serve it with a little spoon that's made of, like mother of pearl.
Ooh.
Because a metal spoon of any kind can taint the caviar.
Right.
We should do a full episode on that.
We should do a full episode.
There is a beautiful little tin of caviar you can get from Whole Foods that's $45. So no, that is not cheap, but certainly anyone as a special occasion could, not spend money on something else. Same way that people save to go out to dinner.
Yeah.
You could go to Whole Foods and spend $45, not as something on your usual shopping list. But I think that, most people could afford to do that, because just even if you're going out to fast food, don't go out to fast food, a couple of times, and you could have that.
Well, Hang Squad, I'm seeing a champagne and caviar outing in our future. And champagne glass with a stem only.
Please.
Cristal.
Oh, that's my favorite champagne.
Cristal. What glass would we be serving that in? Let's see.
Just
is there
something
special
beautiful.
Baccarat? How about a Baccarat crystal?
I've never bought it. Only had it when someone's been serving it, because I believe it's $300.
I don't know. Maybe at our 1-year anniversary, we should have a bottle of Cristal.
I'm in
Baccarat crystal glasses. Oh, I'm just dreaming here. With some, What's the Russian caviar? It begins with a B. Do you know the name of it?
Mm-mm.
All right.
Beluga.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right, Sarasota peeps and all of you that are going to fly in for this party, put it on your calendar.
Put it on our tab.
Put it on our tab and put it on our calendar for 2026. 2026. We'll get there. All right. Well, I think that wraps up this episode.
That does.
So, great chatting with you. And
you too.
See you next time.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Peace out.